Hi, I'm Carl Stabe, and I have the amazing Jenny Blake with us today. Her website. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Sure, sure. Your website, lifeaftercollege.org, has been super popular as well as the book. But you're rebranding, or you'll be expanding, I should say, jennyblake.me. I'm excited because you're a leader and you're an amazing blogger. We've met before at South by Southwest, and I'm just really excited to have you here. And you're in Bali currently right now, right?
Yeah. Yes,
Can
I
you
am.
can you tell us a little, example of something that's gone on there that's been amazing for you?
Part of it just the people are so friendly, and there are a ton of travelers and expats who come through Bali. So on any given day, at any given moment, you can meet someone incredibly interesting. Yesterday, I met a woman whose house burned down. She lost 80% of her belongings. She lives in Dublin, Ireland, and she said it's the best thing that ever happened to me. It allowed her insurance money to completely rebuild from scratch. And in doing that, she now rents out her place on Airbnb for an additional income above her mortgage of $3,000 a month. So because of that, quit her mediocre job, started her own interior design business, and is now traveling through Bali. And so
Awesome.
I know I love hearing stories like that and getting to talk to all the different people. And the food is outstanding as well.
Cool. Cool. So you're an ENFJ from the Myers-Briggs, and I always like to start off with personality and like who you are and how you've gotten to your position. To talk a little bit about your personality and how that has brought you to where you are today.
Sure. I've seen different descriptions of ENFJs. The ones that really fit me the most are to be a giver and a learner and a teacher. So all of what I do centers around those three things. And when I go through struggles or am confused or having a tough time, the first thing I do is learn and read. I'm obsessed with nonfiction, personal development books, probably to a fault. But it's not enough for me just to read and integrate on my own. I really enjoy and get a lot of fulfillment from sharing with other people. And always, if I can learn something and then repackage it or present it or create a template in a way that helps someone get there a little faster or eases their own struggle, that's where I really, really get a lot of my energy and joy.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, that speaks to me because it's why I started Work Happy Now. I hated every job I ever had,
Yeah.
and therefore I wanted to go out and help people. So, I talk a lot about superpowers, and you seem to have, quite a bit that you're able to use and leverage. Can you talk a little bit about them and how you do leverage them?
Sure. I I always get kind of humble around this thing because I feel like other people, or this question, other people can probably say it better than me. But what tends to happen when I talk to people is that they feel encouraged and like whatever big dream or idea they have is actually possible. And that to me is one of my superpowers and something that I get a lot of fulfillment from is talking to someone and understanding what it is that they want to do or create in their life and giving them the encouragement that they can. They're not crazy. Their inner critic doesn't rule the show. And then also, to the extent that I'm able, make connections, provide resources, give some steps for actually how they can take action. Because inspiration is great, but I'm also very passionate about structure and processes that are going to help someone get where they want to go.
And is that where the ENFJ comes in? Like you like to be very well organized
Yeah.
and help other people organize as well.
Yes, the J, the total structure. I when my book was coming out, I did this 15 tab book marketing spreadsheet that Seth Godin ended up linking to on his blog, and that was to organize my own brain. And there was so much going on, this tornado of things that yes, the J in me needs to get things like that all down on paper so that I can think clearly. And then the awesome side result is that it helps other people too.
Yeah, yeah. So, What is that? What are your secrets to connecting with people and making them feel special?
Mhm. You know, I think I don't think about it so consciously, but I just really enjoy meeting new people. And the term networking gets a bad rap. I don't necessarily believe that, you need to go out with such an agenda to network. Or let's say, Carl, you and I met at the South by Southwest conference rather serendipitously. I was meeting Chris Gilbo for coffee. He was having a little meetup. You showed up. We got to shake hands and say hello. And even if we didn't keep in touch closely over the last 3 years, it's so cool to see how random connections like that can come back later on. So for me, I've always made an effort to, especially online, when I cross paths with someone who looks interesting or I respect their work. And I used to do this a lot more where I would just reach out and say, hey, I'd love to jump on the phone for 20 minutes and say hi and learn more about what you're up to. And those tend to add up over time. So I'd say that's been a big factor in helping my blog and book even get where they are today.
So, there's probably a lot of people out there that are like, how do I do that? How do I have the courage to reach out like that? What made you have the courage to be able to reach out like that?
For me, it started by project-based things I was working on. I was really terrified to write a book, but I deep down knew I wanted to do it. So before I started, I wanted to do some research and talk to other authors. And I was incredibly nervous to email these authors that I admire in the after college space. But the worst someone can say is no. And I always tell people this, when you're thinking about reaching out to someone, first of all, make it very easy for them to say yes. 20 minutes is a lot more doable for someone oftentimes than a whole lunch meeting or asking if they can meet for coffee right up front. Some people will say yes to meet for coffee, and it's no problem at all. Others are a little busier, and so a 20-minute phone call might be a better place to start. And the other thing I would say is remember that people want to pay it forward. All those mentors or potential mentors that you might be afraid to reach out to at one time were also just starting out. And there were people who were helpful on their path. So instead of framing it in your mind as you're going to be this big burden the minute you ask them for their time, think of it as they're going to be very flattered that you're reaching out. And I've found 9 times out of 10, they are over the moon to be helpful in any way that they can. And that 1 out of 10, it's just because they're busy. And if they are, they'll let you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I found that same thing, and there is that fear, when you hit that send button, and
Right.
If they're going to respond or how they're going to respond. But it's amazing how giving people are if you give them the chance.
Yes.
Yeah. So as you've built up your career, and you've been able to help people with their careers, but as you're expanding and you're growing your business, there's a lot of different directions that you can take. And I'll take a step back and say, how do you find these people? How do you find these people that are excited about after life after college, but now that you're changing directions, how are you going to find these new people to get excited about what you're doing?
Right. Well, it's very interesting because most of my clients, my current coaching clients, have almost found me miraculously in that even with a blog called Life After College, almost all my clients are working on a blog, book, or business. Several are in their 40s. A lot are in their mid-30s. So they're actually not at all related to necessarily the name of my blog. And the reason that they found me and reached out almost in spite of my current blog or marketing, if you will, is what I'm actually doing. And I think being authentic and transparent in your work and your writing, no matter what you're doing, is going to help you find your right people. So it's been very funny to me, and I'm very grateful that in the last year, by me kind of living authentically and sharing and letting people in on the process, the ups and the downs, which is important, they have sort of found me, this blog, book, or business type client or a big career shift. And so in a lot of ways, that inspired me to move up the timing of launching the Jenny Blake website, because I want to make sure that I'm clearly reaching out to sort of target audience a lot more directly. What I'm finding is now life after college is awesome, and I've had that website for 7 years. But I'm turning 30 this October, and it just feels like a good time for transition, and also to broaden the umbrella so that people, for example, anyone watching this interview doesn't say, "Oh, I graduated 10 years ago. That's not for me."
Yeah, yeah. They want somebody that can, I guess you're kind of, reaching a next level. So you want to bring on people on board that are, you know, more in line with what you're doing and how you've grown as your career has blossomed.
Right. And I find that while I can coach other categories, my joy and where I really thrive is that hands-on tactical, let's do this, create an action plan, get an idea off the ground. One way I describe it is micro business activation. That I'm really good at helping people ignite and start something. Whereas I might not be the best coach for processing a really deep emotional trauma. It's just not necessarily where I thrive. So I would recommend someone out or to see a therapist, for example.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, as I'm listening to you, you kind of spur a lot of excitement inside of me. So I can feel where that, when people talk with you, you really bring a lot of positivity. How do you harness that positivity and do you teach some of that to your clients?
Gosh, that's a good question. My guy calls it the optimistic hotline that, you just call and my brother is funny. He has described it as the positivity blender. Like whatever he throws in will just come back out in a positivity smoothie or something. But I mean, I'm very flattered by those descriptions and your kind words as well. I don't know that I would say two things. I mean, I guess this is sort of just a trait that I have, but I would also say that a lot of my positivity comes from struggle. It's not just rooted in this miracle of birth that I was born super positive at all times. It's really not that at all. I go through so many of my own insecurities. I'm prone to worry and anxiety and stress, and I manage it by staying focused on the positive and what I want moving forward. And I have a very active, and I would say at many times overactive brain. So it's important that I do stay balanced through things like yoga. And since I've been in Bali, I haven't been drinking any alcohol, even though it'd be so easy for me to have like wine or, some tropical drink. So I'm learning also to feed the positive engine with things that give me energy rather than things that tend to be depressants or take away from it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of it. I've always, when I've worked with my clients, it's a process, like no one, like you said, you don't just hop out of the womb and just ooze positivity.
Right.
We're actually taught to be negative. We're taught to stay grounded. But, there are tools out there. What's one tool that you maybe teach clients or use with clients that you can share with us today?
The most important thing, let's say someone has a big idea or something they want to do, is really focus on the vision, focus on what you want, your ideal outcome, and make it real. Because as you said, we are very prone to worry and anxiety, and especially the American way is like, well, how are you going to do something? Everyone wants to know what the steps are. We're so kind of go-getter oriented that a lot of times we'll get started on something before we're really clear on what we even really want. And I think that's where a lot of college grads and even mid-career professionals all of a sudden wake up and they're like, what am I doing? I was just following this set template that was laid out for me without any vision, without any inspiration. So the thing that helps me to stay positive and rooted in where I'm going is first getting clear on what I want. What does that look like? Get detailed. And a lot of people want to skip that because it feels hard. They're like, I don't know. This is overwhelming. It's scary to think about it. It brings in all kinds of fears and doubts. And that's what makes it really important because it doesn't always come naturally to us. And so if you can carve out the time to do that, then by the time you are in the trenches working on the how, it will come so much easier.
Yeah, because you put in that foundation work.
Yeah.
There, uh, everybody, there is a little bit of work
Yeah.
going on in the background, so don't worry about it. We can hear you fine, Jenny. We're doing good.
Okay.
I just want to let everybody know what that buzzing sound was in the
Yeah.
background.
Oh boy, the perils of doing an interview overseas.
Yes. But that's the fun, like, it's a part of the process of, being where you are and sharing your thoughts with us. If you were, what was it, 30 years ago, we could never have done this.
Mm,
So,
so true. So
yeah,
true.
yeah. Okay. So, one thing I like to, talk about is you said in the beginning you love books. So, is there a couple books that you can share with my audience that can help them with their career or business?
Absolutely. The two I recommend hands down to just about everyone are by Martha Beck, who is my favorite author and life coach. She's basically my idol. Um, Her two books are Finding Your Own North Star and Steering by Starlight. The titles of these books are so cheesy. You just got to get over it because the content in them is so helpful and smart. This woman went through, got a Harvard undergrad, master's, and PhD, realized she was miserable, had 3 kids, and then broke from the Mormon church, became a life coach. She has this fascinating history, and she brings all that to the table to help you figure out, what is it that your essential self wants? How do you move toward that rather than living according to our social self that many of us do our whole lives?
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard of her, but I never really checked her out, so now I have to do some research.
Yeah, I think for anyone in transition, whether it's career or life, those books are such a great, because they're part workbook too. So they're just an awesome jumping off point.
Yeah. Okay, so what do you think? This is the toughest question of this interview.
Okay.
And what do you think is the secret to happiness?
Oh boy, this is a tough one.
Yeah.
Part of the secret is acceptance, I would say, a big part of it, because I've had to learn that I'm not going to feel happy all the time, nor am I going to feel 100% secure or confident or fill in the blank. And so to me, when I can actually accept where I am or the challenge that is facing me, it's okay. And in accepting it, I think a lot of times, at least for me, my inclination is to reject things that feel bad or things that seem like, some terrible circumstance. And the more I resist that, the more I start spinning and just getting really depressed. So for me, finding happiness is about accepting what's currently in front of me and where I am, and also being patient. I think this happiness question, when everything is great, it's pretty straightforward, like
Hmm.
don't let the success demons bring you down, that like this worry that the other shoe is going to come falling down. But I think it's when things are tough, that's when the question comes in of what's the secret to happiness. And so I think part of it is compassion too, and being really patient with yourself and compassionate. And the last thing you need is to beat yourself up when things are going your way. And so those are, I'd say, the two things that keep me relatively grounded.
Cool. Cool. Okay, so you've helped a lot of people with their careers, and you're wanting to kind of expand out and help people kind of do like micro process their business together. So, what is one thing? What is one life core lesson that you can give to people who are wanting to change careers or wanting to start a business?
First, and this goes to the secret of happiness too, trust your gut and really learn to tune in and to know, is this something, does this pass my gut check? And what is my gut asking of me in this moment? What does my gut say? So when you are thinking of quitting a job or starting a business, it's so important to tune in and start to make decisions using this gut meter rather than just our intellectual meter. And it takes practice. And sometimes you may need to just admit out loud what you want before you put the pressure to actually make it happen. So I'd say that's one thing. And then the second is building in some kind of plan can be helpful, or getting an accountability buddy. Set up some systems that will actually help get this thing off the ground, whatever it is, a book, blog, business, where you don't feel like you're in it alone, because you certainly aren't. Many have gone before you, many will come after you. So that's where things like joining a course can be helpful, or hiring a coach, or, that's why I love reading books, because I can learn from what others have done. So I'd say that's important. And then finally, dream big, but start small. Don't wait until you have everything perfect and everything in place to get going. At some point, you really do have to start just putting one foot in front of the other, and trust that the people and resources you need will come in, even if you don't have them all lined up front.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I make that mistake, taking baby steps, because you're just like, okay, you know what the goal is, but you just have to start small and chip away at it. And
Yeah.
otherwise, you're going to drive yourself nuts if you're trying to get to point Z in one leap, one day, or one week.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't have enough information to even get you to point Z. Part of it is you collect information and gut checks and ideas along the way that are going to be very helpful. So I think that's another case for just getting started, because you kind of have to get the ball rolling in order to get the information that you are going to need in order to complete whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I wasn't sure if I should, post this interview on Work Happy Now or Domino Connection, but I think I might do it on both. On both.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Cool.
Well, this has been great. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And thank you to everyone who took time out of your day to watch and listen.
Cool. All right. Have a great day.
Okay. Bye, everyone.